All right, good morning, everybody. So we're going to go around and do introductions before we jump into our presentation. So we have some new faces, which is awesome to see. So I'm Stephanie Cavino, and the program manager of the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative, and I'll hand it over to Sophia.
Hello, I am Sophia Kostoulis, and I'm from Upper Blackstone Clean Water, and I work in pretreatment. Thank you for having me.
Phyllis.
Good morning, I'm Phyllis Charpentier, president of the Manchog Pond Foundation, up here on the headwaters of the Mumford tributary.
Thanks. Ted?
Hi, Ted Beauvais. I'm president of the Blackstone River Watershed Association.
Thanks. E, I don't know your E, Depradine. I don't know your first name.
I'm Eric Depradine.
Eric.
I'm the pre-treatment coordinator for the Upper Blackstone.
Thanks, Eric. Adam?
Dr. Adam Menard, I'm the town planner for Auburn.
Thanks. Rebecca?
Good morning, Rebecca Quinones. I'm with Mass Wildlife. I'm an aquatic ecologist and a climate change specialist.
Thanks. David?
Yeah, I'm David Tapscott. I'm on the Board of Health in Uxbridge and project manager for an MVP project.
Thank you. Keith?
I'm Keith Hanley. I'm with the Blackstone River Watershed Council, Friends of the Blackstone. I pick up a lot of trash.
Thanks, Keith. James?
Morning, everyone. Jim Staub, and I'm the regional director for our CAP Solutions. My territory is Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. I'm also a Worcester resident, so I'm at the top of the Blackstone.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Tansy?
Hey, yeah, I'm Tansy Romashevsky. I'm the Visitor Services Supervisor over at Blackstone River and Canal Heritage State Park. So I'm with the Department of Conservation and Recreation.
Thanks, Tansy. Madison?
Hi, everyone. My name is Madison Wellman. I am the Coalition Manager with the Coalition for Safe Drinking Water.
Great. Thanks for joining us. Paul?
Good morning, Paul Papinchuk, 350 Central Mass and Friends of Wetherill Park in Worcester.
Thank you. Greg?
Greg Dorschler, the Worcester Intercollegiate Outdoors Initiative Coordinator with the Greater Worcester Land Trust.
One day we're going to have a competition of who has the longest title, because we've got some really long ones in here. Amy?
Hey, Amy Shea, President and CEO of the Health Foundation of Central Massachusetts. We're based in downtown Worcester, but we serve all of Central Massachusetts.
Thanks. Allison?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Allison from Rhode Island Department of Transportation, the Office of Stormwater Management.
Thanks. Julia? Oh, did we lose Julia? Okay, maybe she stepped off. Sarah Bauer.
Hi, everyone. Sarah Bauer with Mass Rivers Alliance. I'm their senior technical specialist.
Thanks. Colleen. Okay, I wrote everybody's name down as they joined. So there you are.
I'm here too. Hi. I'm just actually in the car right now. But hi, I'm Colleen. I've been doing some contracted projects for the National Park Service concerning watershed, health, and environmental resources.
Thanks, Colleen. Amanda.
Hi, I'm Amanda Coffier, and I'm a lab tech at Upper Blackstone Clean Water.
Thanks. Kelly.
Hey everyone, Kelly King, environmental planner with the Horsley Witten Group in Providence.
And Nick.
Morning, everyone. This is Nick Cohen, environmental planner with the Horsley Witten Group in Boston.
Thanks. Donna.
Donna Williams, Blackstone River Coalition. I got an echo.
Oh, David, if you can mute yourself.
Blackstone River Valley National Heritage Corridor.
Thanks, Donna. Kay? Did Kay step off? Okay, Kay Denherter is from Uxbridge Board of Health. Hopefully she'll be able to join us again. Morgan?
Hi, I'm Morgan Say. I am researcher at Clark, and I'm interested in studying sediment transport around Worcester County.
Thanks.
Worcester City.
Deb.
Yep. Deb Carey with Mass Audubon. I'm Community Advocacy and Engagement Manager for our Central Region.
Thank you. Heidi.
Hi, everyone. Heidi Ritchie, Director of Policy and Advocacy at Mass Audubon. Great to see you all.
Thanks. Did I miss anybody?
Me.
Sarah. Okay, I wrote your name down and then I couldn't find you. I was like, maybe she also stepped off. Go ahead, Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah. I'm a resiliency planner at the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Rebecca.
Rebecca Krieger, Director of Cultural Resources at Blackstone River Valley National Historical Park.
Thank you. And Hillary. I didn't look at my second page.
That's all right. I came in a little bit late this morning. I'm Hillary King. I work for Mass EEA as the Central Regional Coordinator for the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program.
Thank you so much. All right, now
Thank
did I miss anybody?
I think just me, Nisa Pistachio from Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's office.
I said hi to you and I didn't write your name down. Sorry. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, anybody else? All right, thank you for your patience, everybody. And with that, I'll hand it over to Amy.
Great. Thank you so much for inviting us to join you. I'm here with my colleagues from RCAP Solutions, Jim Starbard and Madison Wellman, to talk about some of our efforts to promote safe drinking water. It's wonderful to meet all of you clean water advocates, and we're focused on a very specific aspect of clean water, which is clean drinking water for private well owners. So I'll turn it over to Jim to kick us off, and then I'll say a little bit, and Madison will close us out, and hopefully we'll have a couple minutes to answer your questions. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to try to share my screen here. Everyone can see that?
Yep.
Okay. So good morning, everyone. Jim Staub with RCAP Solutions. I'm just going to bring you through our testing program, what the results were. This was funded by the Health Foundation of Central Massachusetts, and we did this in collaboration with a lot of local Board of Health groups, Montechusett Public Health Network, and then the Neshoba Associated Boards of Health, as well as Massachusetts Environmental Health Association. We're kind of our partners since the beginning on this. And like I mentioned, it was funded by the Health Foundation of Central Massachusetts, and we collaborated a lot with Mass DEP as well, setting this program up and with the results after. So the program took place between 2020 and 2022. 2020 is a great year to start a program, but we were able to get it done. And during the program, we did 502 samples of homeowners' wells throughout the Commonwealth. And what happened? I have no idea what just happened to my screen.
Can you stop sharing and start sharing again, maybe?
Yeah, I will. Oops there. All right, let's try this again.
It was perfect for a minute, though.
Yeah, it was great. All right, from the beginning. And no one can see it, huh? Fun.
You wanna, can you email it to me and maybe I can share my screen and you can talk through it?
What, excuse me?
You want to email it to me and maybe I can share my screen and have you talk through it, or?
Sure, I can. Let me try from this. Let me try from this. Maybe this will work. If I do like, okay.
That looks good. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
hopefully it stays like this. All right, let's try to go to the next one now. Okay, so here's basically we tested for primarily we tried to get with health-based contaminants. We did do some secondary contaminants iron, pH, sodium, etc. We're really concerned with the health-based contaminants, the stuff that's going to make people sick. So these are the list of the top ones that we focused on, and these are ones that Mass DEP recommends that every private well owner test their wells for. We pretty much hit every one of them except VOCs, gross alpha, and now that PFAS is one of the recommended, we didn't do those either, but at the time it was not a recommended thing to sample. So we did test for arsenic, E. coli, nitrate, radon, total coliform bacteria, and then E. coli if there was positive. Uranium and the manganese of Massachusetts standard 0.3 milligrams or above. So those were the kind of the ones we're looking. Oh God, what did I do now? So those were the ones we were looking for, the problems. So these are the towns tested. First 2 years, we did start primarily in central Massachusetts. 2020, we did kind of a, very few, but more spread out. 2021, we focused on 6 different towns, 3 in each of the health districts that we were working with. And then 2022, we went statewide. As you can see, the towns in the blue were tested. And so we were all the way from Wellfleet all the way down to Coleraine. So we got a good spread of the state. And I should say that originally in northern central Mass was picked because it was a known area of being high arsenic, high uranium, and high radon. So we expected to have some issues, if you will. So as a total from 502 samples, this is kind of the results we had for the health-based issues. Total coliform bacteria being most common, we expected. So we had 95 of the 502 wells tested positive for that, or 19% of the samples. So, pretty much every one out of every 5 had, a health-based, a total coliform issue. The second one was radon at 33 of the 502, or 7% of the samples, which also is pretty high. In the next slide, you'll see in comparison to what a public water system deals with. And the third one was arsenic with 28 of the samples coming out, or 6% of the samples. Then it went down to lower percentages, but still had 14 manganese samples come up higher than the health-based standard of Massachusetts, 11 for uranium, 9 for E. coli, and 3 for nitrate. So these are substantially health-based issues that can cause the homeowner and their family to get sick if they were to ingest it. So we wanted a comparison because we're finding issues, if you will, but we had no comparison. So we asked Mass DEP for what their data was from the same period for community-based water systems, or basically where people live. And we found that our samples, if you did it by just by samples, 32% of the samples we took had some kind of health-based standard. Some of them had multiple, but at least, one health-based standard at 32% of the samples we took. Community public water systems at the time in Massachusetts, Mass DEP reported about 4.5% have these kind of issues. So you can see it's substantially more in private wells, the percentage-wise of having, health-based issue. And there's also with public water systems, they have routine sample plans that they have to do. So even if something goes out of compliance, it's usually picked up in the first year or 2 or 3 years. Dealing with the homeowners that we work with, most of them don't test, or if they had tested, it was when they originally bought the house, maybe 20, 30 years ago. So you can imagine that health-based standard, is consumed for a lot longer than someone who's on a public water system that even if something went astray, that water system would have tested that max 3-5 years later and found that they had an issue. So the population would only be ingesting that water for, a lot shorter period than we're finding that private water is tested. And in the last slide, that's basically the results from our sample, but we just wanted to mention there is assistance available. Our sister network in southeast part of the country had a program, and they opened it up to the northern states where we work here in RCAP Solutions. So there's more information available if you like, but this would help homeowners upgrade their well or septic systems. Probably a little less money than needed for a septic upgrade of $15,000, but it's a very low interest rate and can help put treatment in, or even replace a well for a homeowner that might have an issue. Thanks for your time, and sorry about the technical difficulties in the beginning.
Great. Thank you, Jim. You handled the technical difficulties very well, and I am hoping to avoid them by not sharing any slides and just speaking a little bit about some of the important equity considerations which are paramount for the Health Foundation. And I'll also summarize a little bit about the legislation that has been filed to date. So as Jim mentioned, since 2020, the Health Foundation has provided roughly $1.5 million in grant funding to RCAP Solutions to support the private well program to protect public health. As many of you probably know, public water systems are regulated by the state. And when I refer to the state, I am referring to Massachusetts, recognizing that some of you are from other states. But here in Massachusetts, public water systems are regulated by the state and routinely monitored for contaminants, regardless of where these water systems are located. That's not true for private wells. Under the current patchwork system of private well regulations, some towns have no regulations, while other towns have very strict regulations. So currently that's up to local boards of health. And some don't even know if they have regulations, or the regulations have not been updated for many years. So it's great that so many of you are tuned in to the importance of clean water, and that you're all interested in learning more about clean drinking water as well. The unfortunate reality is that many of your fellow Massachusetts residents across the state, again, for those of you who live in Massachusetts, that these residents have no idea of the importance of testing the water quality in their private wells. And for some low-income homeowners, even when they do test the wells, they can't afford the treatment systems that can cost as much as $5,000 or even $10,000 in some cases when they need to address PFAS and other contaminants. So that's why we're so excited that legislation has been filed this session, an act promoting drinking water quality for all. In the Senate, the bill number is 482. In the House, the number is 902. And we can share a fact sheet afterwards with all of this information. Our lead sponsors are Senator Jamie Eldridge, Representative Dan Cena, and Representative Smitty Pignatelli. This legislation would do two things. First, it would enable Mass DEP to develop drinking water regulations. So currently that authority lies with local boards of health. Mass DEP does not have the power to develop statewide minimum drinking water standards. So that would be an important first step. And then we would also expand the existing Mass Housing Septic Repair Loan Program, which could then provide no to low interest loans for low-income homeowners who need to remediate private wells. So it's an existing state revolving loan fund, so no additional funding is needed at this time. And it would be an incredible resource for low-income homeowners. For the average homeowner, the cost is probably something that they could absorb. Some filtration systems, depending on the contaminants that need to be addressed, could be as simple as a point of use system that you install at the kitchen sink or the kitchen faucet. For more complicated issues, you may need a whole house treatment system, and that's when it gets to be a little more expensive. So this legislation is being considered this session. We will have a briefing at the State House in May, and would love to have some of you join us or find other ways to get involved. Madison will share with you some of the different options for getting involved and showing your support. But for us, this is an important issue of health equity. People outside of urban areas who do not have access to public water systems should also have access to safe drinking water. And this means having statewide evidence-based protections to ensure that private wells have safe drinking water, and to identifying financial assistance for homeowners who need it. So we need all the help we can get in making this a reality. And I'll turn it over to Madison next to say a little bit more about how you can get involved. Thank you.
Awesome. Great presentation, Amy. My name is Madison Wellman. I am the Coalition Manager with the Coalition for Safe Drinking Water. We are a public-facing coalition assembled from local government officials, regional authorities, nonprofit organizations, for-profit businesses in the water space, and also private homeowners who rely on residential private wells. The goal of this coalition is to support the passage of an act to support enact supporting drinking water quality for all. We are going to have events later on this spring and into the summer and to support the passage of the bill. We are also supporting our coalition members with resources to help their state and state representatives to encourage them to co-sign the bill and to vote for it when it does come up for a vote in the General Assembly. I can put a link in the chat at the end of this presentation that'll take you to our coalition interest form, where any of you can sign up to join the coalition. We'd love to have every one of you join. You can join both as an individual and as a representative of your organization. If you are joining on behalf of your organization, we would also really love to be able to have your logo and post it on our website under our list of supporters. No obligation. We're not. We mostly just want to be able to list things and ask you to reach out and talk to your state level legislators. That's all. Does anyone have anyone have any questions? I'm getting a message that my connection is unstable, so you can tell me if I'm not coming through.
Thank you, Madison. I'll just add, in addition to considering joining the coalition, for those of you who may not be interested in joining a coalition or able to, there are other ways that you can get involved. It could be as simple as reaching out to your local legislator here in Massachusetts, and we can provide you with sample language and or writing a letter of support. So it doesn't need to be ongoing. It can be sort of a one-time show of support. Really, anything you're able to offer, we would be most grateful. So thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's interesting that, we all work in clean water in so many ways. And this is something that I hadn't heard about until Amy and I were on a different call together. And I said, oh my gosh, I didn't know that this was the case, that, private drinking wells, didn't have this unified protection. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring it to our group and share the good work that they're doing. So in particular, I hope you can talk to some of our other legislative folks. So Mass Rivers, certainly, I don't know if Sarah wants to mention anything, they're working on clean rivers, certainly, but I think that there's a great overlap there. So does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, this is Ted Beauvais. I was wondering the slide that you showed, James, with the Southeastern group, and I think the USDA logo was there. I don't know if that's through rural development part of USDA, but could you tell us more about how that program works? I did just do a quick Google. I wasn't really able to bring it up all that easily, but how does that work for private well owners?
The private well owner would, our Southeast affiliate is taking care of all the underwriting and whatnot. So basically they would just apply to them. It's a simple application. Then the funding goes up to, I think, $15,000 with I think it's a 1% interest fee or something like that. It's very low. And from there, the homeowner would be able to, upgrade their well or septic system, put in treatment and all that. It has to be, primary home, single family home. There is income criteria, but they're very, very high income criteria opposed to other USDA programs, like the home modification program was very, very low income criteria. And we weren't able to get them. I haven't been able to get anyone eligible. So this program is much more generous with the income that the household can have. And yeah, they would apply directly to the Southeast branch. We can I can email the flyer over for distribution after.
Yeah, if you get it to Stephanie, that works well for us to follow up. And just one other quick question. Is there, I paid to have testing done when I bought my house some years ago. I haven't done a retest. Partly it's money. Is the legislation addressing the testing cost, and especially, and I don't know how much it costs for PFAS, for example. I mean, that could be a real barrier for people to even know that they have a problem.
Yeah, right now the legislation does not specify anything that's going to be in it. It just gives Mass DEP the authority to write it. And what will actually be in it will be sorted out by what Mass DEP writes, as well as comment period, etc. We would imagine, there's a Mass DEP already puts out a model regulation that they hope that local boards of health adopt. They're not required to, but Mass DEP does put it out as reference material. We'd imagine that would would mirror that. That would be what Mass DEP originally proposes before the comment period, etc. Part of that does have testing for transfer of property, kind of like with Title V. You got to have something to transfer your property, as well as for rental property or any kind of leased property. Actually in the housing code now, currently, you got to supply potable water, but how would you do that unless you tested the water? So a lot of boards of health are adopting that part of it so they can, address the housing code accurately, because, if you're on a private well, but you don't have the authority to enforce, the owner of the rental property to test the water, like you tell it it's potable water, and, testing, I think, for transfer of property would pick up those legacy wells that might have been put in the 50s, the 40s, that no one's tested the water ever since. And, if they're not in a municipality that requires testing for transfer of property, which some boards of health do, some don't, then, we hear from a lot of new homeowners that, especially now that a lot of people are moving out of the cities and going to less urban places, and they're on their first well and septic ever, and they just don't, a lot of them don't even know they're on a well. I had a buddy in the town of Rutland, works for the water department, got a call from a woman saying her water smelled like rotten eggs. And he asked for the address and informed her that she's on a private well, and they don't serve that part of town. So sometimes it's that, that much that they don't even understand where their water comes from. But, as far as, or even tested it, and a lot of people don't even test now because it might, it's big competition to get the house. It might, my bid might get overdone by someone who doesn't want any contingencies. So a lot of people are just moving in now without anything.
Yeah. I know, having all the individual towns in Massachusetts is great, but we have all these fragmented jurisdictions. And I would prefer a stronger statewide uniform approach where DEP or whatever entity would be required to promulgate regulations that address this directly at the transfer time, and maybe at 10-year intervals or whatever. Not necessarily free testing, but some kind of cost share approach to testing to make it affordable for people and encouraging people to do it. I think this scattershot town by town approach has some real shortcomings.
Yeah. A good example of like a state-run lab is the Barnstable County Health Department. They have a water lab there, and their testing is, very, very reasonable compared to a private lab. The state of Rhode Island, they have a state lab in Providence that they test their private water firm, and again, there's a cost, but it's a lot lower than a private lab is. So there is, issues like that. It possibly could be adopted, but different states have different ways of doing it, if you will.
Yeah, thanks. I want to get to Adam's question as well.
Thanks. Echo Ted's comments about affordability and testing. That's a problem for everybody. But my question was regarding when you tested those 500 odd wells, whether you looked at the depth of the wells and the age of the wells, if that was a factor at all with the contaminants. That might be useful information for other towns.
We did some of the stuff, we did pull the well logs if we could find them. Every well we did an inspection of the well, so we got to figure out what's going on. A lot of the times, especially the total coliform and E. coli, looking at the exterior of the well and ways that surface contamination got in really helped us help the homeowner with, fixing the problem as opposed to just putting bleach down, but permanently. Yeah, we did look at the wells, but stuff like that, as well as geological surveys. Like, we did test for radiologicals on the Cape just because we had done it everywhere. Of course, we didn't find any, and Wellfleet being, there's no bedrock, so you didn't have radon, you don't have uranium. But, we did the testing anyways, just to make sure that each test had all the same health-based contaminants, if you will. But yeah, we did look to that to a point too, if you will, and drilled as opposed to dug wells. There's still some dug wells out there that, again, you're going to get different contaminants than you would with a drilled well.
Yeah, really good questions. I know we had a couple more questions in the chat on whether there's any data on the number of private wells with water quantity issues that are maybe going dry. Sounds like we don't have that data yet, but it's a good opportunity to maybe work with Mass Rivers on their drought bill. And then a question, do you have to live in Barnstable County or Rhode Island to use their labs to test your well?
I'm not sure. I imagine Rhode Island, I would say so, because it's state funded lab, I believe. Barnstable County, I'm not sure. They allowed us to, during this program, to bring our samples there. But again, we were testing residents of Wellfleet. But I'm not sure if it's just a service for the county only or anyone could bring it. But at the same time, you would have to bring your samples to Hyannis. So, you know, kind of a long run from Worcester County.
Yeah.
But I will say there's not many labs in Worcester County right now. We had one in Worcester that closed. The only one I can think of top of my head is in Air. And there's one in Leominster, but they lost their accreditation, so I can't recommend using them. We always recommend a Mass DEP certified lab as well. You know, most of like the mail order stuff or the testing kits you see at Home Depot or something, we don't recommend them. They just, you just can't trust the results as opposed to a Mass DEP certified lab. You know, the Worcester Water Department brings the samples to the same ones we recommend, if you will. So we know the results are on the up and up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Any other questions for our group?
Just as a point of reference, the issue of quantity, this is a little bit tangential, but it's really not, because it had to do with private wells. We're seeing a proliferation of private irrigation wells for watering lawns and for large landscaping operations. And these can put quite a stress on the aquifer. And I don't think this is being addressed. I know Sarah has from Mass Rivers is working on this, but it's another issue, and it deals with enforcement also. What we've been talking about in terms of quality and quality at the point of transfer of property. It's a big issue about how you enforce it, even on a state level. So those are sort of background elements that people should probably be aware of. So.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about our drought bill that we're currently pushing, if this makes sense for me to do right now. So our policy specialist, Catherine Lang, is really the one heading this. I'm on our technical side, but I can pop in the chat a link to some more information on the drought bill, but there's a hearing for it next week. I believe it's on Wednesday of next week at 1 p.m. And essentially this bill, you know, would give authority to the EEA as well as the Massachusetts Drought Management Task Force to require a more uniform water conservation approach across the drought region during severe droughts when they're declared by the Drought Management Task Force, because currently each municipality implements their own water conservation measures, which includes more of like a confusing patchwork of policies around the state. And so this is really an initiative to have a more uniform approach to drought management. And let me include the link right now. And then to respond to Heidi's question about if the state has some data, or if we have data on private wells and water quantity as well as water quality. We don't have that data. I know I've requested it of Mass DEP previously, and they had mentioned that they're undergoing a study with USGS, I believe, trying to track some water quantity and water use rates from private wells, because that's currently such a big gap in their research, since they don't have the authority to really manage private wells at this moment. I'm not sure if that study has been completed at this time and if that data is available, but I think I was in touch with them last summer. So there is likelihood that it is complete by this point, and there is data available. But I would reach out to Mass DEP, the Water Management Program, they may have more information.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. There's nothing in the bill about prevention, however, is that correct?
That's correct. It would follow the drought management task force recommendations on responses.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So many connections being made. I love it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the group we have presenting today before we move on? Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing all this information. If you have any other links that you want to share, feel free to email me or put them in the chat and I will make sure that they go in the notes. And if you have those resources that you want to send over, I can send that up with our follow-up message to everybody.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, we'll follow up with some links and fact sheets, and thank you all for the opportunity. We hope you'll stay engaged.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really great. Okay, so next thing on our agenda, we have some subgroup updates, and I just realized that there's a typo in my agenda, so sorry about that. We're not talking about Woonsocket again. Does anyone have any updates about the bikeway or greenway? Doesn't often have updates. Okay. For university work, I have two, and then I'll hand it off to you guys. One is, oh, Greg, you're here. Did you want to mention your update? I have it in my notes.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The Totnick Brook team. I can mention it. The Totnick Brook team, that they were working on a footbridge design in an area in Worcester. And they'll be presenting their findings tomorrow, and I can send you the link for it.
Today.
Is it? Oh, it's today.
It is today. It's this afternoon from it's a
sure.
poster session from
Okay.
12:30 to 3 in Caven Hall at WPI. That's the Civil Engineering Building.
Thank you. I think you said tomorrow in the email, and I read it this morning, so I was thinking tomorrow. Okay.
I can put the links to their report in the chat if you'd like.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
This is a great project that cross over to an environmental justice neighborhood to access some open space that's owned by the City of Worcester and managed by the Greater Worcester Land Trust, and in an area that often floods, so creating safer access that we're not actually damaging the wetland there. So really good project. The other one is another group of WPI students that I'd mentioned previously, helping the collaborative do some culvert assessments in Sutton. So they've completed their certification in the NAC protocol, the North Atlantic Aquatic Connectivity Collaborative, and they've assessed 20 culverts in the community, and they're making a sort of prioritization tool using a lot of existing data, but thinking about if you can't get your data into this larger NAC database, if you're not certified, or if you want to have sort of a simpler way of thinking about what's important, it's just sort of a 1 through 3 scoring on several different factors, including public safety, how would it break off connections to the community or break off important critical infrastructure if the culvert was to break, thinking about the condition that it's in, whether it's in an area that floods frequently, et cetera. And they're also creating an outreach brochure on just the real basics of what are culverts and why is it important to consider this, because folks that we talked to, including Phyllis from this group, said that, you know, we've never really seen a lot of outreach around that, very, very simple outreach for folks to kind of get the basics. So hopefully they'll be finishing up in the next week or two, and we'll have that information to share. Any other university updates that folks want to share? Katie.
I'm sorry, is this a particular category of updates? I'm sorry, I was sneezing, so I can't understand.
Yeah, we will get to general updates in just 1 minute. Any other university things that folks want to talk about? Okay, one more topic area and then we'll switch it off. So fish passage. So as a reminder, our parade, let's see if this will work. Can't see my herring. Our parade with our herring, we're having people color these fish and then symbolically taking them over two of the lower dams on the Blackstone River. This event is on May 21st. It's a community parade. Everyone is welcome to join and march in the parade with us. It's a celebration and an educational event. We're going to have screen printing of t-shirts, and we're going to have several different organizations there, like the Maxman, which is the recycling mascot for Rhode Island, will be there. We are working with the CRMC to get their trash trailer there of all recycled materials. We're going to have the Nature Conservancy and Save the Bay and several other groups coming to talk about why fish passage is important and really try and get the community involved in understanding that this is going forward and what it means and what are the benefits. And the parade itself is being led by our partners, the Narragansett Indian Tribe and the Hassanambisco Band of Nipmuc. So there'll be drumming and dancing, and it should be a good time. So I'll give you, if you haven't signed up yet, you don't have to sign up to come. You're welcome to just show up. But this is the details, and you can come rain or shine. If it ends up being poor weather, we'll just kind of pop inside across the street. And if you're interested in having your organization table, we would love to have you. And this is the sign up form for groups to table. So you do have to provide your own table. We don't have any extra ones, I'm sorry, but we'd love to have you come. So the other actual updates around that, I know a lot of folks that typically are at these meetings are not here today because they're at the meeting that is at the exact same time from 10 to 12 in Pawtucket, which is around the JAM, which is the Joint Agency Meeting for the Elizabeth Webbing Dam. So the lower four dams on the river, you have Main Street, Slater, Elizabeth Webbing is the third one. That dam is owned by DEM, by the state, and there is a proposal to put hydropower on that dam. And that proposal is being heard right now at a meeting in Pawtucket to discuss what their project is and what public comments are on it. So we have several folks there who are expressing concern over putting hydro there, that it would lock this dam into staying there versus, because it's owned by the state, maybe there's a potential for actually taking that whole barrier out. And at the minimum, whatever occurs at that dam, we want to make sure that fish passage is included so that as the Nature Conservancy completes their 60% design of fish passage over the lower few dams by the end of this year, then they can move up the river and create fish passage over those other dams as well. So if you're interested in learning more about that, let me know and I can keep you posted. As soon as I hear back from the meeting today, I will share that information. And the other thing that I put in the notes that I just want to bring up is that I think I mentioned this before, but the collaborative is taking over from the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program to manage the stakeholder meetings for the fish passage projects going on. And the Nature Conservancy has a contract to do preliminary investigations for Elizabeth Webbing and Valley Falls. So in year one, right now, they're working on the lower two, Slater and Main Street, and they'll have that 60% design, but they're also working on these preliminary investigations for the upper two dams. And they have a co-op that was approved by EPA. And they've had, I think, their first kickoff meeting just a couple weeks ago. So that project is also moving forward. So I'm still learning a lot about fish passage, but I would love to be your go-to to share information and keep the process transparent. Patty.
Yes, Stephanie, just to give you a little background on the Elizabeth Webbing. The building on that area is owned by Louis Yip, Pawtucket developer who developed a building where our offices are located. I'm not sure where he stands on this, but he is very influential. So anything you can do to turn him towards our view versus the hydropower plant. And at the Valley Falls Dam actually is used for hydropower. I don't know if you were aware of that. There is a small, yeah. Okay. And the other thing is the Fish Passage Parade. I have mentioned this to a few of my media colleagues, Allison Bologna as one, who was with Channel 10. She's also involved with some development in Pawtucket by the train station. And I happened to mention to her about this event. She wasn't aware of it. But she said, "Oh, this might be something you might." They're looking for content for Studio 10, which is their noontime show, and I also think it might be a good thing to get on the road show in Rhode Island, because to me it's a unique event, an event that bringing so many people together of community and collaboration. That so if there's any additional information you can share with me beyond what's in the event, if you could forward that to me. I mean, I don't know if there was a press release that was done. I mean, I'd be glad to do a press release if you can send me a little bit more details of who's involved and stuff. I could do that. I am actually off today, so.
That's a great point, Patty. I've been swamped the past couple months and I haven't put in the time I would love to, but a press release is a wonderful idea and we should probably do that. I think part of it is I'm kind of waiting on some of our representatives. So we've invited both Senator Whitehouse and Senator Reed to the event, and we've gotten maybes. When we hear back officially, if those state representatives or those representatives can come from Rhode Island, we'd love to be able to put that into a press release. I don't know if Nisa is still on the call and has any updates.
Sorry, I'm here. No updates. It's a little early in scheduling, but we should have some clarity within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you so much. Not to put you on the spot.
Right. Well, once you have all that information, if you want someone to write up the press release, I would be glad to volunteer to do that.
Thank you.
And I have a lot of the contacts, as well as Bonnie had shared some of her Massachusetts contacts with me a while back, so I can, connect to everyone. But I've been chatting it up with a few of my, I have a good relationship with the producer for the road show and with Allison Bologna, and also with the folks at Providence Monthly. So, anything I can do to help get some good media coverage, I'd be glad to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Very, very, very good point. Anything else on Fish Passage that folks want to share? One more note is Ashton also has a hydro proposal. They had their joint agency meeting last week, and there was a lot of public attendance there. We probably had about 30 people, which filled the room at Friends of the Blackstone, and there was a big push for consideration of Fish Passage. If that project does go forward, their timeline is to get all of their permits and to start construction in July of 2024. And they are proposing to create American Eel Passage with the hydro construction, but they're not at this point including Fish Passage. So they are saying that they're going to have the real estate there, and that will enable Fish Passage at a later date when DEM tells them to do so. But they don't want to do it at the same time as construction. Partially, they said if they don't have to spend the money yet, then they're not going to. But also DEM made the comment that if flows change or the species change between now and whenever that is actually required and built, it might not be correct anymore. And so DEM would prefer to wait also. So I think it's a little up in the air, and it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, but just to know that that's also happening. And that dam is just a couple more up from the lower four. Okay. For water quality or water quantity, we can just sort of open it up to all updates because I feel like everything has a little bit of water quality. Heidi, do you want to share your updates?
Yeah, sure. I have two updates. So I already put in the chat and that there's another bill being heard at the Environment and Natural Resources Joint Committee hearing next Wednesday that Sarah had mentioned. So this is a bill to accelerate and streamline wetlands restoration. And we've been working on this bill with Mass Rivers, the MACC, TNC, the trustees, and other groups for some time. There's so much progress been made in Massachusetts on wetlands restoration, both inland and coastal, and that includes things like dam removals and culvert upgrades, as well as like direct restoration, like cranberry bog restoration. And DER is great. Massachusetts is a leader. We're making a lot of progress. There's a lot of new money coming available, expanding existing state programs, also additional federal money. But we've been identifying some barriers to this work in terms of the complexity of the permitting involved. It can take, a year or two. It may need 6 or 10 different approvals. For some kinds of projects, there's not clear guidelines, or the guidelines need to be updated, like the dam guidelines. And we just think that it would be really helpful for the state, through the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, to form an initiative on this that would really sort of supercharge the interagency coordination, working with the practitioners and the experts, and figure out first and foremost, like how to speed things up and make them cost effective and efficient under the existing regulatory system. But then also look at, are there some changes that could be made? And I mean, it could be even simple things like making it easier for people to remove invasive plants in buffer zones and riverfront areas without having to go through a big, permitting process with the Conservation Commission. So this bill would create that initiative. We've also been talking with Secretary Tepper and DEP and others, and we know that there are some conversations going on, and there's some efforts to move some of this forward. We just think that legislative support for it as well would help accelerate and maybe provide some funding for a coordinator. So I have a fact sheet on the bill, Stephanie. I don't have it posted on the web yet, so maybe I can get it to you. You can share it somehow. It's the same hearing that there's a link in the chat, and you can sign up on that link to testify. You can testify in person, you can testify remotely, you can submit comments via email, both on this bill, which has both a House and a Senate version, and on the drought bill. So that's legislation. The second update is that, related to all this, we're doing a survey. It's pretty brief survey, shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, unless you have information on a case study you want to share with us. We're happy to receive that as well. A survey to find out from folks, like, what kinds of projects are you working on? Where have you had successes? Where are you encountering barriers? And not just regulatory barriers, but cost or capacity barriers, those kinds of things. And do you want to, get more information on these efforts as we move forward, or sort of building a coalition around this? So I had sent Stephanie the information about the survey as well, and hoping you can circulate it and get folks to complete that survey. We're working with CLF on that.
Can you send that to me again? Because I'm sorry, it's in my email
Sure.
somewhere, but I don't remember.
Sure, and I can put it in the chat as well. Yeah, I just sent it to you right as this meeting was starting. So yeah, and then we're going to have that survey open through the end of May. So if people are with an organization and you're going to be doing any newsletter, you could also send it out that way too. That would be great. I think Mass Rivers is going to do that, for example.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I can answer any questions if there are any about either the bill or the survey.
Any questions for Heidi? Okay, awesome. Well, I will include that. Yeah, thanks, Heidi. I'll include those notes in our follow-up, and I'll send the links. The fact sheet, I'll post it on OneDrive or Google Drive or whatever and share it. And also the survey. Other updates that folks have. We can open it up to any updates.
Steph, it's Donna.
Hey.
As far as water quality monitoring, I'm happy to report that the Blackstone River Coalition did receive a DEP water quality monitoring grant.
I'm so excited. Yay!
Yes. The tricky part is it has to all be spent between May 1st and June 30th. But we'll do it. We'll do it. And the scope of services in the summit, expenses for the summit was included, but the summit has come and gone. So that was deleted. But this is to continue the testing at the 75 sites, do bacteria testing, screening at 5 sites, and then hotspot monitoring and analysis of Mill River sites. So it's all good news.
Yay. That's fantastic. That's very good to know. So are you able to buy new equipment? Is that one of the ways to spend up the money too?
Yes, I think there's a budget item for that.
Great. Great. Well, I'm so happy for you guys. That's very exciting. Well deserved.
Yeah, Peter and Heather did a great job.
Yeah, they're both at the Elizabeth Webbing Jam today, so they're not here, but they're talking about fish passes.
Yeah.
Ed.
Yeah, so just a reminder, there's going to be a family fun fishing day. It's an annual event. It happens at the Riverbend Farm, DCR property in Uxbridge. It's a great way to introduce a kid to fishing. There's equipment provided and some instruction and bait and all that provided. There's prizes. It's really a fun event, and that's coming up on May 6th. There was in the agenda, there was a link to register for it, or you can go to thebrwa.org and you'll find a link there to our BRWA website. And again, that's in partnership with a number of organizations, DCR, Open Sky, Mass Fish and Game. There's a whole bunch of partners on that. And Tansy from Riverbend Farm, I believe tomorrow morning is a park serve day at Riverbend Farm tomorrow morning. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we do have Park Serve Day tomorrow at Blackstone River and Canal Heritage State Park. We also have a Park Serve Day for Upton State Forest. However, that's getting pushed back until the 30th.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You bet.
Isn't the Blackstone Visitor Center in Worcester having one on Sunday?
Yes, the Blackstone BC is also having one. Mm-hmm.
And those are both in the agenda that you got, and they will be in the notes too. But yeah, hopefully, and I'm sure there are so many more events going on for Earth Day tomorrow. Yeah. So even if it's just sitting in your backyard and thinking about how great it is in nature, that also counts as celebrating Earth Day. Patty.
Yeah, just a couple of updates on Stephanie. I don't know if you get the newsletter from the River Classroom that Sam has been putting out, but just, and I noticed that Katie DeGush joined us. So one of the updates is that we have dates scheduled for the water chestnut cleanups for June 10th and June 20th. And you can reach out to Sam at bvtcriverprograms@gmail.com if you want to volunteer. I can put that in the chat if you like, but I did forward you the newsletter, Stephanie, so you would have it. And also our public tours will start May 27th at Central Falls Landing on Sundays. This is the 30th anniversary for the running of the Explorer on the Blackstone River. So we have some special a lecture schedule tied to the boat. So like June 11th, Donna Kaler will be talking about recycling. We have a new person working with us, Julie Kaplan, who's graduate from URI. She's going to be doing on June 18th, medicinal properties. And Greg Garrett will be a guest speaker on June 25th. I'm sure you all know Greg. We have Amanda Peavy coming in July to do the ins and outs of brook trout. We have Alyssa Richard in September from Mystic Aquarium. So we have a list of different special lectures to celebrate our 30th anniversary. And you can sign up if you want to get on the boat on any of those particular days, and it'll be in that newsletter. If anybody wants to sign up for that newsletter, just send me an email and I'll add you to the list.
Thanks, Patty. When did you
so
say the tours start? Sunday, the June 4th?
Sunday, May 27th,
May 27th.
Is the first day of public tours at 1, 2, 3, and 4. I will believe there will be some Saturday evening, just relaxing nature cruises, but I'm not sure of those dates yet. And also the Samuel Slater Canal Boat, if you're interested in an overnight stay on the river, is up and running. We've already had our first guests at the Central Falls Landing. And our Captain Simon did note that our water is low. I guess we are in a little bit of a drought because they can't get the canal boat past the John Street Bridge. The Explorer, however, has a different draft, so that shouldn't have any problems. And they will be doing school programs out of Pawtucket and prior to going to Central Falls Landing, but there won't be any tours for the public. But if there's a group that might want to get out, I'm sure you could reach out to Sam if you wanted to get out on the lower end of Blackstone, Pawtucket River and check that out and check out the Tidewater program development that's going on across there. And you could just reach out to Sam if there's any kind of interest in doing that.
Thanks. And just to note that that June 10th and June 20th water chestnut pull, those will be occurring in a couple different places throughout the watershed. So whether you're near Central Falls, you can volunteer there. If you're closer to Cumberland, there's another opportunity. I forget exactly where it's going to be, but there'll be another one. And I think that there's one more in Mass, Katie. I don't know if we've confirmed that yet.
We're still working on the details. I'm looking for, I believe there's also one on the 25th of June. So by the next meeting, I will definitely have a list of all the times they're happening.
Great, thank you. And Sarah, thanks for being patient.
Yeah, I just wanted to plug another Earth Day celebration. So tomorrow we will be co-hosting an event at Wachusett Brewing Company. From 3 to 7 p.m. They've made a very own beer just in our honor for tomorrow. So part of the proceeds from buying the beer tomorrow will go to support Mass Rivers Alliance. It's a honey blonde ale. It actually has a really cool look as well. We'll be doing a raffle of local prizes. There'll be live music. So we would really love to have you come out and support us and celebrate Earth Day. I can pop some more information in the chat as well. But again, it's from 3 to 7 tomorrow at Wachusett Brewing Company in Westminster.
Thank you. I knew that was that one too. And I was like, oh, I forgot to put that in the notes. Thanks for mentioning that one. It sounds really fun. Deb.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I live near there, so you might see me. I just wanted to say that Mass Audubon is getting back to doing a program called Down the Blackstone. And we take a tour bus of adults down to down through the river valley, all the way to Slater Mill and to Lincoln and to Woonsocket and Riverbend Farm and maybe a few other spots. We're still finalizing it, but I'm just happy that it's up and running again. And there's so much to clue people in on. We'll have a bus of about 25 people. And what's really nice is we get to start and finish at the Worcester Blackstone Visitor Center, and the new Visitor Services Fellow, Austin Alexander, will be able to greet us and show us around. So it's just a nice indication to see that facility, now being able for all of us to use and enjoy.
Thanks, Deb. What did you say that program is called again?
It's called Down the Blackstone with Mass Audubon. Actually, Donna Williams helped create it. And so we offer it to a number of different groups. In this case, it's the Worcester Institute for Senior Education, which is adult programming out of Assumption College.
Awesome. And so is it like, if folks want to do that, they contact you and sort of organize their own group to do it?
No,
Or is
you
it
know what? It's a
program?
private contract.
Okay.
It's a program with WISE, so we don't, but it is inspiring us to start offering public programs again too. Post-COVID, breaking out.
Awesome.
So-
That sounds like a really fun program.
So Deb, if you want to take that group on the Explorer, I just put Sam's email contact for the Explorer
That's great,
in the
'cause
chat.
I
where you
wrote
can-
that down as you were talking. I was thinking, ooh, maybe we can get that in.
Great. Awesome.
Good, thank you.
Hey, go ahead.
Hi. Hi, I'm Kay Denherter from the Uxbridge Board of Health, and we are trying to put together a water chestnut poll for June 25th. And I just wanted to throw out there a couple things. One is that we're having some difficulty with figuring out what we're going to do with the water chestnuts. So I know I've reached out to a couple people on this group, but we had intended, we were hoping that our town DPW was going to be able to take it away and compost it at the town compost, but now there's some issue with that. So I don't know where there are other ideas about what people would do. I know I contacted Katie about it, and I just wanted to see if what other people were doing about with their water chestnuts. If anyone has any comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I would say Katie, or if there's anyone from FOB that's done polls. Anyone that's done a water chestnut poll and has some?
I have some limited experience, and there's an article in the Mass Wildlife magazine a while back about a poll they had done, and basically it's a land application. If you put it somewhere where it's not going to get back into the water, it's just going to decompose and decay. Maybe a few squirrels and chipmunks will eat a few of the nutlets, but it's basically you get it away from the water. So if there is land where somebody doesn't mind having a pile of water chestnuts, if you keep them out of the water, they're going to not be a problem.
Well, thank you.
I know that there's been some groups that if they can get a company to sponsor a dumpster, or a dumpster company to sponsor, then they throw them all in there, and then like Ted was saying, if they can dry out and then just they die, and you do what you can with them. So that might be one opportunity, is if you can get someone to give you a free dumpster.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And hopefully we can coordinate with Katie on that as well later. Colleen.
I just thought it might be interesting to mention that I know some other composting facilities, at least around Rhode Island and Providence, have access to anaerobic digesters and have expanded composting capabilities because of that. So I just wonder if there's other groups that might have more compost capacity if the DPW is not able to do that also. But yeah, I mean, the letting them die and having that easier kind of organic material at that point sounds like a good route too.
Oh, thank you for that information.
I would also say that if there are local farms that are doing compost, that a lot of times that's what happens in Vermont. There are farmers that are, on the lake shore of Lake Champlain, and the boaters just put the water chestnut on the edge of the shore, and the farmers take it away to their compost. So it could be a matter of just finding a local farmer who is interested in getting compost.
Good thoughts, everyone.
And then my last thought on that is, Katie, because Uxbridge is within the Blackstone Watershed, I don't know if there's funding available from your grant through NUIPIC to assist them in taking away that water chestnut?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So there's your backup, Kay.
That's great. Yeah, thanks everybody.
Okay.
Sherry at the front
Okay,
desk.
perfect.
Good to go.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. Any other updates that folks have and want to share? I know Hillary put in the chat that there are, for Massachusetts communities, there's the FY24 Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program Action Grant. Those applications are due on May 4th by 2 p.m. So if any communities are interested in putting in an MVP grant, I know I've talked to a couple of you about that. Or if you have an idea for a grant and you want to talk about it, feel free to reach out to me and I can help you with that. And I'm happy to provide a letter of support for projects going forward within our watershed. And separately, they also have a Planning 2.0 pilot program, and applications for that are due on June 19th at 4 p.m. Hillary, do you have a second that you can maybe give people an idea of what that Planning 2.0 program is if they haven't gotten the emails about it? So if they've already been through the planning process, why they might want to go through this as well?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to think if just giving a general overview consists of talking to people about.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I can while the
I can talk
RFR is
about it.
open. Yeah, the website is there. We've got some materials up on there right now. And yes, I encourage people to look at it and think about if it's time to update their MVP plan with this new process.
Yeah. So yeah, really the two things I was going to say is even if you have an MVP plan, you might want to update it. And so it looks back at, what you've considered as being important before, but gives you some new perspective. And there's also a component that really focuses on environmental justice communities and having underrepresented voices be a real clear part of the planning process. It includes some training in equity. And also, I believe there's for those communities that go through this process, there's a guarantee of at least $50,000 for implementation following up from that process. So I encourage folks to also check that out. And similarly, if you want to go through that process, let me know, and I'm happy to provide you a letter of support from the collaborative. I also wanted to mention a few other updates that folks sent over to me. Massachusetts has some draft goals for the State Hazard Mitigation and Climate Adaptation Plan, their SHMCAP. So there have been some events around that, and let me get you the link for that. There we go. So there's the link if you want to check out what the 2023 SHMCAP draft goals are in Massachusetts. Another is that for Manchog Pond Foundation, putting a plug in for you, Phyllis, if you have a hobby farm, got really Boston there for a second. If you have a hobby farm around the Manchog Pond Watershed in Sutton, they are providing some technical assistance and information around making sure that we're improving local water quality at hobby farms. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Phyllis. Okay. Another is that I don't know if we have anybody from USDA or NRCS that was able to join us. I think they were going to go. Those groups received some funding to perform a preliminary investigation feasibility report, or a PIFR, for I believe it's just the Rhode Island portion of the Blackstone Watershed. So I'm still trying to understand exactly what a PIFR is, but I think the goal is around reducing flooding in the communities. And after they perform this feasibility kind of overview, they will identify specific solutions in order to reduce flooding to residential areas, as well as improving water quality and wildlife habitat. So just a note, and they plan on reaching out to the collaborative and doing a presentation when they have a little bit more information to get feedback from this group. Another update from the city of Worcester. I know many of you mentioned that you're in Worcester, and they are creating a flood watch community science program. So it's really, really easy. And what it is that through their MVP grant that they're finishing up this spring, they are asking folks to go out and collect some photos and videos with a specific location noted immediately or during a storm and immediately after a storm to see where locations are flooding. And so all you need is a smartphone going out and taking pictures and then sending them over to the Department of Sustainability and Resilience in Worcester. So if you want to learn more about that program, it starts anytime you're available through August. And you can contact Green Worcester at worcesterma.gov for more information. So I encourage you Worcesterites to out that program, and it should be really interesting to collect all this community science. A great way to get kids involved too, if you have kids or no kids in Worcester. A lot of our ponds have been stocked, so just a note of that, including some in the Blackstone if you want to go fishing. DEM also has published a draft environmental justice policy, and they are encouraging comments. So I have it in the notes. Let me see. I will copy this hyperlink. So that's the press release. It has a link to the actual draft policy, and you can provide comments to dem.ej at em.ri.gov, and I think that's ongoing. Let me see, what else do I need to tell you? I put in a couple links in the tools and resources. There are a couple around balancing affordable housing and clean water and conservation that are really interesting if you want to check those out. And just a reminder of all the different events that are coming up. Before our next meeting in May, I would also just remind you about this one in particular. So the Mass ECAN, it's the Massachusetts Ecosystem Climate Adaptation Network. Hillary and I are co-leads of one of their work groups on nature-based solutions, actually. And sorry, that link didn't work. But this conference is an annual conference that Mass ECAN hosts, but this specific topic is going to be on watershed scale climate collaborations, just like what this Blackstone Collaborative is about. So we'd love to have you join us. It's in Worcester on May 3rd. It's free. We still have some spots left, so feel free to come. We'll feed you and give you lunch, and we will also take a cookie break in the afternoon, which I feel like it's very important for conferences to have a cookie break. So join us for that. Let's see if this link works. There we go. You can sign up there. And I think those are most of the things I needed to tell you. Our next meeting will be on, I have it here somewhere, May 19th. And we'll be talking about water chestnut. David, did you want to talk about your update too?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a brief update of what we're doing. And I don't know, Phyllis, if you're still on here, but Phyllis was an inspiration for me to get into the MVP 2.0 pilot project with the perspective of the whole Mumford River subbasin or watershed. Because the Manchaug Association doesn't, I think, a dynamite job of being stewards to that particular area of the headwaters of the Mumford. And I think it's a model for applying to the whole watershed area. And the MVP 2.0 that I'm proposing will involve 4 communities, which encompass the watershed. and probably focus on water chestnut removal as a seed project if we're granted the MVP 2.0. It also, and I won't mention details because Hillary's on the call, but Uxbridge has applied for an action grant for MVP fiscal year 24. It sort of dovetails what we're proposing for that, dovetails with reaching out into the region, basically, and not just confining it to Uxbridge. And the MVP fiscal year 23 project that we're involved in, there's a water chestnut pool that I think Katie mentioned, and Kay definitely did on June 25th. Local, we're doing a water chestnut pool, and it's part of the current MVP grant. And we're having workshops, local workshops on May 16th, 17th, and 18th to present the study that's been done on the watershed, on the Whiten Pond Dam, which is a fairly big dam along the Mumford in bad shape. And during the course of the outreach during this project, it really brought me to the whole idea of how much the human communities are part of this landscape. And talking with people and all that, not much is going to happen to these dams. I mean, I would like to just sort of tear them all down and make the river flow nicely, but that's, sort of wherever. I don't know where that comes from, but anyway, involving all the communities, especially the historical communities, and the social and cultural investment in these dams and ponds is just, I think, primary. And that's where the issue of stewardship came up again, for how to approach this problem, because it's a huge problem on a community level. It's really relatively simple to think about in terms of ecology and conceptually, but when you get down into the people that have created and live around these dams, it's very, very complex. So I could go on, but I won't. But that's where Uxbridge is at right now.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about all the work that's going on within the Mumford River, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to creating a subgroup that's specifically around the Mumford, because you guys are really active and I think there's so much going on. It deserves its own meeting to kind of go in more detail.
Yeah, we're trying to put together, that'll be part of the 2.0, is putting together a coalition. Right now, we've got Uxbridge at the bottom and Manchog at the top, and so we're going to fill everything in.
Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other updates that folks want to share? So I'll let you go early here. Thank you all for coming and sharing all this information. I'll get some notes out to you soon with hopefully some more links and info to follow up. And you're very welcome, Paul. I'm glad that you guys always are like, oh, you do such a good job, but really you guys all do such a good job because you're sharing this information. I would have nothing without any of you. So I appreciate you coming. We broke a record of having 280 people get this message about the Blackstone, of wanting to be involved. So I'm so excited about all of the excitement that's out there around this river and all the restoration and monitoring and everything that's going on. So thank you, and have a great weekend and have a great Earth Day, everybody. Take care.
Yay, thanks.